welcome to the Women's Marketing Club. I'm Laura Blacklaws and I am the co-founder. Today I'm being joined by an incredible woman in business. Her name is Collette Philip and she's the brains and the beauty behind Brand by Me. Brand by Me helps ambitious businesses build brilliant brands. They help you to link brand to strategy to create win-wins. Now this could be for your customers, but also for the world around us. Now, I appreciate that was a very short and snappy introduction there, Collette. So I'd like to welcome you to our listeners. And can you tell us a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, hi Laura. So as I said, I work with brands. I work with small businesses and small to medium-sized charities and social change organisations, and I help them build brilliant brands. As it said, what a brilliant brand is one that helps the organisation stand out, be super clear on what they do and the impact of it, and also a brand that sort of sets the direction for how the business is going to operate and maybe the vision too. And so that's what I do. I work across so if it's a bigger organisation, I work across the organisation, across the different departments, or I might work one-to-one with the founder or business owner. It really depends. But that's in a nutshell what I do, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes perfect sense. Now, our listeners today will be made up of women who are still kind of employees in the corporate world, who maybe have an idea to start a business, or they are women who have already set up their business. What are the key attributes that you bring to branding and how you can kind of take their idea and really make it come alive?
Yeah, so my clients say a few things, I guess, in terms of benefits of working with me and why you might need a me. Because certainly where you're starting out, you might be in the stage where you're just trying a number of things. I guess where you need a me is where you're quite clear on maybe the things that you do that work really hard, and when you've got a sense of an audience that you might want to reach, but you're not quite clear how to reach them, or maybe how to present your business or idea in a way they might understand. And that's where people work with me. My clients say that I give them clarity, that they give them confidence, because actually they know exactly, what they're trying to do. They have articulated why they exist and how they help their potential clients, and also the distinctive way in which they do it. And if you have all of those three things nailed, it just gives you a sense of clarity, focus and direction that you can then use to prioritize the different activities within your business. And then honestly, I also help my clients, both individuals and businesses, really prioritize the actions and activities that are really going to matter and help embed and build that brand, both externally and, if it's a bigger organization, internally too.
Well, this sounds completely different to anything I've ever understood before about branding. Now, to me, from a marketing perspective, branding to me is almost kind of like your logo, your marketing materials, how your brand looks. So actually, you're offering like a real unique set of core skills there for people to learn.
Yeah, because people often, I think, and it's the same with everything really, in that you understand the bits that you see, feel, touch. So that is the branding of a business. People understand the brand as per the logo because you can see it. People understand the branding, things like websites because they interact with it. But what often businesses don't necessarily do, and the bit that I help people do, is the thinking that sits behind it, because it makes all those decisions. I mean, anyone can not anyone, but you can sort of sketch up a logo and you can just start from scratch. But it's like starting with this blank sheet of paper, and your logo is not just, a pretty picture. It is designed to communicate what's ownable and distinctive around your business. Of course, if you don't know what's ownable and distinctive around your business, you won't be able to do that. And that's the bit that I help with, is sort of the thinking and the framework that will help you build an effective logo. It will help you come up with some great words that are very succinct to describe what you do. It will help you even build a brilliant website, and do so easily, because all of those millions of small decisions oh, should I be informal? Should I be formal? Should I be friendly? You know, how warm should I be? Actually, your brand framework will determine those already. So it's not so much should I, it will be, okay, I need to demonstrate that I am, you know, warm and bubbly in terms of my brand personality. So this is how I want to do it through my website, if that makes sense.
It does indeed. It all sounds really fascinating, and it's like really exciting actually to hear how you are so different from what people have perceived maybe kind of branding experts to be. What would you say inspired you to actually set up on your own?
It's exactly what you just said, really, in that I realised when I worked, so my background, I worked in advertising, but I worked at advertising at a point where there weren't really brand agencies. And I worked at the big agencies doing sort of 30-second, 60-second adverts on TV for some big brands. But often what we'd find is that our clients would come to us and they'd want us to do a snappy, engaging, funny 30-second ad. But we'd be like, you haven't really defined like any of the sort of building blocks of your brand that would help us do it. So we'd need to do that first. And so I got really good at kind of reverse engineering that process and really understanding kind of the building blocks of a brand. And then I changed tack and I joined Bernardo's, the children's charity, as head of brand and digital. And that was really about where I sort of understood maybe the impact that brands can have on really powerful causes, and also maybe a sense of how I do it differently from other people. And my career just built from there to a point where I was on a career break, and I was looking around for roles that I thought I could have an impact. And it reached a point where I was like, I think I do this differently. I think there's a need for what I do, and it's that need is not in one company. I think there's a need in a lot of maybe smaller organizations that don't have the massive budgets to hire brand experts like Wolf Olin's, the global brand agency, who see branding in a similar way to what I do. And in fact, you know, I'm really inspired by some of the stuff they do. But maybe the smaller organizations and businesses that don't have access to that, but really have some quite complex business challenges where they need the brand to work really hard and they really need to unpick what sits behind it. That's probably where I could come in and really help. And the idea of focusing in on, you know, small businesses and then small and medium-sized organizations who are really looking to make a difference in the world just massively appealed to me.
That's fantastic. And I'm sure they're going to be listeners, you know, joining us down the podcast who have a similar idea to you. They are on a career break, they're looking for their ideal role, but nothing's kind of ticking their own boxes. So create something yourself.
Exactly.
It's brilliant. Now, obviously, starting a business can have its challenges as well as its, you know, huge amounts of fun and the potential to grow and succeed. But are there any challenges that you'd like to share with our listeners that you have been able to overcome?
Yeah, I think there were two big things I found challenging when I started my business. The first one was actually working on my own. I'd always ran teams, and I really love sort of that collaboration and bouncing ideas off people. So when you initially start up, I was working on my own, and not obviously working with my clients, but some of the decisions on my own business, I would have to take on my own and sort of have that, you know, basically bounce them around in what is the echo chamber of my own mind, and drive myself a bit nuts in doing so, thinking, oh, is this the right thing to do? Should I be doing this? What should I be doing? Something else? And I found the not having somebody or people to bounce that off challenging at first. The way I overcame that was, you know, two things. One is connecting with like-minded people through networking, as we did. But then, and then also the other thing about my business has been going maybe 6 months, and I got a business coach that was absolutely invaluable to helping me just sort of set the vision and ambition behind my business, but also sense check and interrogate some of the decisions and that I was making, and give me a real focus and give me that sense of partnership and collaboration that I was used to from having teams. So that was the first challenge that I met, and I think it's one that maybe kind of the listeners will sort of empathise with too. It's the same actually when you reach senior roles, and I think coaching is a fantastic way of sort of overcoming that challenge, regardless of whether you are working in-house, or working for yourself. The second one was about, and I think this is something that I really do come across with the businesses I work within is being really clear about who I can help and who I can't, and being very focused on my audience, and being confident enough, especially when you're starting out and you have bills to pay, to say no to people that I think I just can't help.
Yeah.
And that was, that was challenging for me. I actually learned the hard way, in that I had a client relationship that, although it ended, amicably, it ended because we both realized that I was not the best person to help her, but equally she was not in a place where she could use the skills of a brand strategist. And I think how I overcame that was really to develop some much better onboarding processes, and to be much clearer in my sort of how I describe what I do and who I do it for across all of my kind of websites. So when I say I work with ambitious businesses, that's quite deliberate, because having a sense of ambition, a clear ambition around what you want to do with your business, is absolutely key before you can start building any sort of brand strategy. If you don't know what you're trying to do, and if it's not ambitious enough to warrant building a brand around it, then there's no point having a brand strategist to help. And I sort of got very clear about that, and then got, even the word I might use is ruthless with myself about saying, what, can't help. Just say in the nicest possible way no, and maybe direct them to someone that could help them. And that's what I do now.
That's brilliant. And it's something I've had to learn as well in my own business, that it's okay to say no.
Yeah.
And it's quite natural that you're not the best fit for everyone, and equally they're not the right fit for you.
Exactly that. And I think being objective about that too, because it's easy, particularly when you work on your own, for you to start really taking these things personally.
Yeah.
But as you said, just like, our friends, really, we meet people we connect with, and we meet people that are perfectly nice, but we don't connect with.
Yeah.
And those people we connect with become our friends, and the people we don't then become, acquaintances that we just bump into on the street, and it's absolutely fine. Same from a business point of view. You cannot help everybody. And one of the things that I'm really strict with my clients on is when people say, right, so who's your audience? And I get, well, everybody really. I very much try to really focus them in on saying, no, you can't help everybody. You need to, let's work on who it is and who can help and who you can't help. So they're clear on that.
Absolutely. And this is like really amazing advice that you're sharing with us today. But is there a piece of advice that you received before you set up on your own that has really helped you excel in business?
Yeah, and it's funny, it probably took from when people started, people have said to me for years and years before I set up my business that I should do something, that, what I do is very unique in the way I do it. And I just didn't set up the business at all. I was like, no, I want to work in-house. I'm not interested. And I was in a senior role at a charity, and I was working, and I was trying, and I think this will really sort of chime with some of your readers. I was in that place that a lot of us women find us in, when we're wanting to step up and be promoted, and we just keep encountering blocks, barriers. And the advice I was given is, sometimes you just need to hear, not you. No, because this is not about, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you work, no matter the case you put together, the behavior of these individuals is just saying, not you. Not you. And you have to just hear it. You just have to hear it and think, okay, fine. Then you don't get me. I'm going to go and find someone where the answer is hell yes me. And that was really good advice. And I always think about it. I think sometimes I'm like, okay, cool. They're just telling you not you. They might say different words like, perhaps you could be like this. Well, I'm not sure you have the experience when you have decades of experience. They're just saying, and when you hear feedback that is just nonsense, and that you're delivering on, you just need to hear not you. They're just finding excuses, and the real thing they're saying to you is not you. And that's fine. And then when you hear that, what it stops you doing is bashing your head against that brick wall, and instead directing your efforts into maybe somewhere where you will be valued and where they'll benefit from your skills, and you'll go on and thrive.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners who have already made that leap into setting up on their own will completely resonate. And if there are any listeners who are still in that kind of reality of banging their head against a brick wall, will also be able to kind of to empathise as well. So I think that's advice that anyone can take on board. Now, you mentioned recently that you worked with a business coach. So you're obviously really keen on investing on your own development.
Yeah.
But are there any books or any influencers who have been a game changer for you that you could recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, if you are running any sort of business where you're any sort of consultancy or service business, where it's client facing, there's an absolutely brilliant book and I recommend it to everybody. It's called Book Yourself Solid, and it's by a guy called Michael Port. Not to be confused with the guy Michael Porter who did the 5 sort of forces of marketing or something. But Michael Port, Book Yourself Solid, it's like this Bible that just takes you through the steps you need to take to identify your target audience and your, maybe the ways you might stand out, and then maybe how you sort of shape and articulate your offer. And I just found it like the most brilliant book all the time. I read it, kind of implemented it, and it really step changed my business quite specifically. Partly as well because the book is very complementary with what I do in terms of brand strategy and brand thinking. So I guess I would say it's useful regardless, and I'd read it. It's useful if you've had some thoughts around and you've done some work on your brand first, even more invaluable. But regardless, if you run a business where you're trying to market yourself to people and clients and bring clients on board, this is just essential reading.
Fantastic. Now, I'm definitely going to be having a look on Amazon and downloading that bad boy. It sounds amazing. Before we actually wrap up the podcast, I'm sure that there are lots of listeners who would love to find out more about you and the services you offer. What's the best way of getting in touch?
Any number of ways, really. I am, I think, LinkedIn. I'm at, it's kind of in/brand by Collette. And I'm at Brand by Collette on Twitter as well. My website is brandbyme.co.uk. And on the homepage, if you sort of like the look of what I do, you can just book in and get a free introductory chat. So even if you've got like brand challenges or you just want to tap into sort of my head around brands or anything, you can just book in and it goes straight into my diary and you'll get a kind of telephone appointment. And so that's really the best ways to get in touch with me. I do Brand by Me is on Facebook, but we, like lots of businesses, are really struggling with visibility on our Facebook page, and I think the only person that really sees my Facebook is my dad, so probably don't go on that. Probably stick to like the Twitter. Oh, and also Brand by Collette on Instagram. I love Instagram. That's a real mix of brand stuff and me stuff, so you might see pictures of my little puppy Nesta as much as you might see quotes on brand people, because I love Insta for that.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And that's what I love about Instagram as well, is you can actually really get to know the face behind a brand.
Yeah, very much so.
Fantastic. Well, Collette, thank you so much for your help today. You've been incredibly inspiring. Hopefully our listeners will find out more about you.
Great. Thanks so much.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.